What is up, guys? Munchcraft here, and today we are going to be making a basic platformer game. And what this means is that we're going to have like a little graphic character, and he's going to be hopping around on little levels, and when he gets to the end, we'll transition to the next level. So the first thing we're going to want to do is, instead of the Scratchy Cat, we're going to want to change the costume to a different kind of thing. We can delete these two cats, and instead we are going to put a little cube. And did you guys know that in Scratch, when you're creating these costumes, if you hold shift while creating a square, it actually creates a perfect square, so you don't need to worry about anything with that. So it seems a little too small right now, if you can see on the screen, so maybe we should make it a little bigger. Like that big. Yeah. This is what we need. This is about the size that we need. Now, we're also going to want to create another sprite for the platform, and we're just going to call it like a grass-like thing. And you don't want any outline for this, don't want it. So now for this square, you can just create a really big rectangle at the bottom of your screen. And now after you're done with that, you can actually position this little square on your screen so that it perfectly fits right in like a little grass. Now we need to code this little spritey guy so that he's able to actually move around. So the first thing that we are going to want to do is create a new block that we can call run controls. So we can go to my blocks, click make a block, and call it run controls. Run controls, and we are going to want to do the run without screen refresh. Okay, and so the first thing that you are going to want to do is create some variables. So the first variable that you're going to want to create is going to be called run speed. And I think I wrote run ed there. Won't run speed for all sprites, and then you can click OK and hide it. And then we are going to want to say if then key right arrow pressed we are going to want to change the run speed by, or change the X by run speed. So we're going to get this change X box, change X by run speed. And what this is doing is the speed that your character is running, it's changing the speed that they're going across by what they're going across from. So now that you've done that, you can just go ahead and do an if touching platform sprite in that. So we're going to have an if inside an if. If touching platform, then, or I just named it sprite 2. Then what you're going to want to do is change the X by 0 minus the run speed. So change X by 0 minus run speed. And so what this is doing is it's slowing down the run speed every time you walk across. So what this code is going to be doing is if you're in midair, it's going to go faster than if you're walking on the ground. So 0 minus run speed. All right, so and the reason this won't do anything right now is because we haven't defined run speed yet, but we will get into later. And we're just gonna be duplicating this and doing the same thing here, except for left arrow, it's the opposite direction. So we are going to switch this 0 minus and this run speed. So these two are right together and these two are far apart. And that should be our run controls. It will be fine. Now we're going to need to create another block. This is going to be probably a more advanced block called simulation gravity, or simulate gravity, or whatever you want to call it. So let's just call it simulate gravity. And click run without screen refresh. You don't want to have the screen refreshing when you are doing that. So when you see this, we're gonna create some new variables. Go to variables and make a variable. First variable I want to call is called fall speed. Fall speed for all sprites. And second is going to be reverse step. So reverse step. Okay. And delete that from there. And the last variable for this block is going to be called gravity. So that we can simulate the gravity of our player. And now that we have done that, we can get right into it. So for the simulation of gravity, we're going to say change y by fall speed. So we're gonna drag this little fall speed variable into here. And then after you've done that, you are going to have a big if then else. And we talked about if then else in a previous lesson. What this means is that if a condition is met, then do some code, and if it's not met, then do some other code. So first of all, for this, we're going to say if touching platforms. So that we can create the falling and not falling. And then what you're going to want to do is put another if then else inside of the if then part, the top part, and you're going to say if, drag this little sign and say if fall speed is less than 0. And we are going to put that in there. So that's the speed that our character is just falling down. And if it's less than 0, we are going to do a certain amount of code. And so we're going to set reverse step to 1. And now, that should be fine. And in the else part, set reverse step to -1, so that way the player can fall in and keep going out. So what we're going to want to do is have the player fall down, but what you can't see is that the player is constantly going up and down, like really small bits. But you want to make it so fast that the player can't see it, and it looks like the player is just remaining still. So set reverse step to -1. Okay, and then right after that, we're going to have a repeat until. And we're going to say repeat until not touching the platforms. Not touching the platforms. We are going to change the y by the reverse step. So that way we can have the player rise out of the platform. So change Y by reverse step. And now that that is over with, we are going to put right at the end of that a set fall speed to 0, and that's just gonna make the character stop falling when they touch the platform. And if we go to the else part, it's not going to do anything. So the else part is going to be really easy. Change fall speed by gravity. And now we have our simulate gravity pretty much done. All we have left to do are 2 little extra blocks of code. And so what we're going to want to do is create a new block, and we're going to call it the jump control so that the player can jump. Jump control. Alright. And what you're going to want to do is if then key up arrow pressed, because when you press the up arrow, obviously the player's going to want to go up. If then key up arrow pressed, then you're going to want to change the Y by -1. So this is the part where it's changing the Y a little lower, and then when it touches the platforms, it's going to take off, and then it's going to change the Y by 1, so it rises just a little bit and then falls back down because of the simulation gravity. So change Y by -1, and you can then put an if then, another smaller if then inside this if then. It's kind of confusing, but here, if touching platforms, and what we're going to want to do is create a new variable called takeoff speed. So that's the speed that when we're taking off, how high it's going to go, the speed that it's going to be rising. So takeoff speed. And then after you have done that, we are going to set the fall speed to the takeoff speed. And then change Y by 1. So then there we have it. This should be all the blocks that we need. All we have left, that we may have to do, is the connection of all of them. And what we need for the connection of them is just have a little setup. So when green flag clicked, now we have to set all the variables, otherwise it's not going to work. So we're going to set takeoff speed to 12. Set takeoff speed to 12. All right. We are going to set run speed. Run speed to 5. And we are going to also want to set the gravity to -1. Set gravity to -1. And we are going to want to also set the fall speed to 0. And then after you're done with that, we are going to want to get a forever block. Forever, 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 forever. And we're going to put our 3 blocks that we just defined in there. And now that should work. We should have a... Yeah. See? We've got a little guy jumping around. He's walking on this platform. This is pretty great. So we've got our player moving around, and for the next tutorial of the platformer series, we're gonna have the level go on to the next level when you hit the side of the screen. But for now, we have a pretty sufficient platformer, and we will finish it up today. Thank you all for watching. See you later.